Call to order this regular meeting of the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, July 5th, 2023. Roll call.
Blair.
Here.
Smiley.
Here.
Wiles.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
At this time, if you all will please stand with me as Director Smiley leads us in prayer, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for so many blessings you have given our community and for this great day. We are thankful for the opportunity to come together to serve our citizens. We ask you to give us the ability to make wise and careful decisions in the best interest of our citizens, and we pray that you keep our community safe and healthy, and you will watch over our community, our nation, and all those that serve and protect us wherever they may be. In Jesus' name, amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I would like to ask that anyone that has an electronic device, please silence that so that we don't have an interruption during our meeting. And thank you very much for that. First on our agenda is public input time. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board on any item that is not on our regular agenda? There being none, I'll ask if there's anyone here that would like to address the board on an item that is on our consent agenda. There is none, so we will move on to our presentations. So the first one we'll start with is for our Siloam Springs Golf Course. Christina.
Good evening, board. This evening, Bryan Minnis is here to give the board an update on what has been done so far at the golf course.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Well, first, directors and mayor, city staff, thank you, and citizens, thank you for allowing me to come in and give a report on the status of the golf course. So it's a privilege to be here in Siloam Springs. So anyway, I'll get right into it. So this first slide, just kind of for anybody here that's kind of not aware of what the hierarchy and the makeup of the golf course is, this kind of lays it out. So as you all know, the city owns the land of the golf course. They're the property owner. The leaseholder is Siloam Springs Country Club, Inc., and Maxim Golf, my company, is the hired manager of the golf course. And so just a little recap of where we started. So in September of 2022, Sager's Crossing Golf Club, which was the previous operator's name for the golf club, Siloam Springs Golf Club, became defunct, and they were a subletter. So Siloam Springs Country Club, Inc., who holds the lease on the property, had engaged with that group to operate the golf course. They became defunct, and the subletter became insolvent in their business in their attempt to operate the golf course. I started having discussions earlier that year in 2022 with the board of Siloam Springs Country Club, Inc., about where the golf course might go, since they thought that that lease was probably coming to an end, and they needed some sort of management direction for the future. And so in October 22, the city of Siloam Springs Country Club, Inc., corporate sponsors, members, and patrons stepped up really to save Siloam Springs Golf Course from extinction or going defunct. And so we engaged with them to come in and raise money. A good portion of that money was delivered by the city of Siloam Springs, which has made a tremendous impact in keeping golf alive here in the community. And so I'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to thank you in advance for the commitment from the city that the city made to do that. The club had mounting debt, inadequate equipment, severely deferred maintenance issues, and little to no participation in golf activity. Golf activity had really declined. The Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce, just as an example, and various other tournaments, along with most of the members and patrons, had decided the course was no longer playable and canceled participation of the course due to the conditions and the fear of closure. So the serious issues that we faced when we came in back in October of 2022 are these. There were others, but these are the primary ones. The club had $85,000 of debt and really no income. It had 2 pieces of maintenance equipment that were in working order. They had a greens mower and a utility cart. We had an unrectified water damage in the clubhouse, unpaid golf cart lease that was in default, dead greens, which we'll show you a picture of, and a defunct irrigation system. Point of sale and other software needs that the club had were unpaid and in default. There were unpaid utilities, depleted workforce, and less than $3,000 per month in membership revenue at the club. So where we've come, we were hired to manage the property in cooperation with the Siloam Springs Country Club, Inc. board. $120,000 of donations were raised, both monies and in-kind support, to sustain and begin the revitalization of the club. All the delinquent bills were paid, new equipment was purchased or leased, staff was hired, pardon me, course improvements were made, clubhouse maintenance issues were resolved, and a new strategy to provide improved and better services for a larger audience. And this larger audience includes student athletes, junior golfers, members, corporate patrons, and daily fee patrons. Golf Course Improvement Committee was formed, and we have a number of people that are on that committee that are devoted and dedicated to improving the golf course. And we strengthened our cooperation with the Illinois Watershed group. So I'm sure everybody here knows, but just in case, Sagers Creek starts there at the golf course. And it's kind of its genesis and flows through the community. It's a vital part of the community. It's the water source for the golf course. There was major cooperation between the city, the Illinois Watershed Group, members and citizens to revitalize that area where it genesis and comes through the golf course. And they've done a remarkable job. A lot of money was spent, a lot of work was done, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's a very important part of the community and a very important part of the golf course. A new and improved partnership with the First Tee of Northwest Arkansas was also formed. For anybody that doesn't know what the First Tee does, is they take young people who have an interest in golf and they teach them golf as well as life skills and important values that carry them beyond golf, but just to be better people and better citizens for the future. So pictures paint 1,000 words. So here's just some photos. My favorite one, obviously, you'll see that the First Tee held a golf camp a little over a month ago, and that's that picture in the middle, obviously, with the kids in the t-shirts, and you can see some of the other pictures. So that was great. We had, that picture doesn't encompass all the kids, but we had over 30 kids involved in the junior golf program with the First Tee. So in October 2022, when we came, this is a picture of the number 2 green that runs along North Country Club Road. I think you can tell by that picture kind of where we started. That's an unplayable golf course condition for a green, and that picture was taken in May of 2023. So we reseeded the greens, some of it which took really well. We came in at a kind of a difficult time to do the reseeding. October we got here. We didn't start reseeding until a little bit later than that for a number of reasons, and so that's a little bit too late. But we did get some recovery to the golf course, and so it's vastly improved from where it was. This is just some photos of the creek restoration and some of the bloomings and some of the things happening along the creek restoration project. It really looks beautiful if you get a chance to go out and drive by the golf course and you want to park and get out and take a look at it. It's really remarkable what has been done there. I think that, I'll go off script here a little bit, but one of the things about the history of Siloam Springs Country Club is, and it happens at a lot of clubs, it kind of became a club for very few and not very welcoming to the many. Clubs don't survive that way. They don't do well that way. There's not enough revenue involved in it, and there's certainly it's counterproductive, I think, to what the city would want for an asset that they own, even though they don't manage it from day to day. A golf course is a place where kids, student athletes, families, parents, grandparents, and grandchildren should gather to have fun and recreation through golf, build relationships. It's a place where community organizations, companies need to be able to utilize to host times with clients and vendors or to raise money. One of the tragic things that happened last year is our own Chamber of Commerce couldn't hold their golf tournament there and had to take the golf tournament outside of Siloam Springs. That's a terrible thing to happen for the community, because it's important that the Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce have their golf course and their fundraiser in Siloam Springs. So we've reactivated that, and they will be hosting it this fall. A lot of other organizations that have pulled out. We have a great and strong relationship with the Siloam Springs Regional Hospital Group. They'll be holding their event in September, raising money for Ability Tree, which is an important organization here in the community. They do great work. But just things like that had really been lost at the club. And so those things are being reestablished as we speak. So here's some of the progress that has been made. Irrigation improvements are the number one thing. So in the golf course world, irrigation is the cardiovascular system of the golf course. And it was pretty much defunct. While we have all the water we'll ever need or ever want available to us, we couldn't deliver it to the golf course in an appropriate manner. The irrigation system is old and it needed to be updated. The lines, the main lines, some of them had significant issues, all the way to the heads that sprinkle certain areas of the golf course. Matter of fact, the golf course fairways and tees had not been watered in years. And even though we have predominantly Bermuda grass on tees and fairways here, and those things love the heat and they don't require a lot of water, with no water, they just become unplayable and unsightly. And so we have done, I think, a pretty good job of reestablishing getting water to most of the golf course. We have a lot of work left to do, a lot of work left to do on the irrigation system. But for the first time in a long time, not only are we able to water greens effectively, but we're watering fairways and tees as well. And so that's been very important. I won't bore you with some of that other golf course irrigation stuff, but you can see that we put in a lot of new heads, quick couplers. For those of you who don't know, that's where you hook in a line real quick with a hose, and so you can hand water, which is really important in our industry. The quick couplers were either buried or lost or defunct, and we've reestablished those for all of the greens so that we can hand water greens. 8 of the 9 fairways that we have on the golf course now have water capability, and 90% of the tees have water capability. We had a main line break, which we repaired in-house twice, which has helped deliver water throughout the golf course as well. I put a picture here of our Panthers. We have a strong relationship with the school, and because we're so close to the school right across the street, that's a great advantage for student athlete golfers to be able to come to practice and work on their game, or come after school and practice golf. It's a major important part of the athletic program with the Panthers, and we also serve as host to a couple of other high schools, either on a regular basis or an infrequent basis, to come and practice golf as part of their athletic programs, as well as hosting some meets at the golf course as well that are taking place this year. So both the boys and girls teams, they've done a great job. They've stepped up. They pay about $10,000 a year to utilize the golf course, and that money is needed to provide a driving range opportunity and a place for those student athletes to play golf. Kind of where we're headed, we've got some big plans in the future. We'll see what it takes to realize those in the future. But 2 things that we really need. One is a new cart storage facility. I don't know if you've driven by the golf course, but the cart storage facility you have today, I call it Shanty Town. That's probably terrible to say, but it looks horrific. And what we've done is we've condensed the number of users for those cart sheds into kind of a consolidated area, and we're actually going to be able to demolition the biggest long building that runs down number 1 fairway. We've got a big trash unit out there so that we can tear it down. We've got equipment coming so that we can knock it down and get rid of it. It'll open up the view to the golf course and get rid of a number of those units. But at some point, we're working with corporate sponsors and community leaders to try to figure out how to fund a new golf cart storage facility for the golf course that may also house some indoor hitting bays and some student athlete locker rooms and things like that. That's undetermined at this point. The other thing is the driving range facility is now basically kind of the parking area at the rodeo grounds, and it's been a good relationship, to have that, but it's very disjointed. If you know anything about the golf course, you check in at the golf club, you got to get on a golf cart, or you got to get back in your car and take a bucket of balls and go all the way up to the rodeo grounds and hit balls on a driving range facility that's really too short to be a driving range the way it is. It's a little bit dangerous and disjointed. And so there is some interior space. That's that picture on the left where we have a concept to maybe add a practice facility that's right there by the golf course. It would require some netting. It would require some infrastructure changes, but it could suffice in the future and allow us to do something that's a little bit more sensible for training and practicing and teaching, especially teaching kids how to play the game. So the infrastructure needs that the golf course still needs going forward. The irrigation system repair and upgrades, there's still a number of things that need to be done. New impact heads throughout the golf course, and then just replacement of broken heads. We've got about, about 50% of the heads, that water around the golf course are old and they don't work. And so we need replacement of those or repair of those. A valve box is where you control the water. Right now we are watering, we're turning on ball valves and we're doing all kinds of things to try to get water to the golf course. And a more automated and sufficient system would make a huge difference in our ability to get water to the golf course. We have an irrigation pump that works, but it's troubled, it's tired, it's old. We probably need to rebuild and install a new irrigation pump. And we've got leaks and line repairs still throughout the golf course that we need to address. And then seeding of the golf course. So it's one thing to get water to the golf course, and one of the reasons why we haven't spent a lot of money on seeding some of the areas or sodding some of the areas is we just cannot get, it's just like your lawn, right? There's no reason to throw seed or drill seed or whatever else in your lawn if you can't get water onto it. And so once we get that done, we'll need to buy a little bit of seed and put it out on the golf course. The equipment needs that the golf course still has that we're facing, we need a better zero-turn mower. We need a top dresser, a spinner top dresser, and that throws sand out onto the greens or the tee boxes. We don't have that piece of equipment. We need a fairway unit repair. We do have a fairway unit. And then, of course, that practice facility that I lined out earlier, this is a rough guess of what the cost might be to build that in the future. And so those are some of our major needs. So the last thing I want to say is the city last year committed $30,000. We were required to raise $90,000, and the city would participate with an additional $30,000, which we did do, and the city did come through on. I want to take this opportunity publicly to tell everybody, and I know we have some new directors on the board, but this board made the decision to help, and it saved the golf course really from going under. That money was spent. It was required how that money was spent. It had to be on taking care of the golf course, everything from chemical and fertilizer to labor to repairs to the renting of equipment, things like that. We spent far more than that, but that $30,000 was absolutely crucial in our ability to get the golf course back online. Listen, if the city hadn't done that, the golf course would be closed today. I'm convinced of that fact. And so I want to thank everyone here for, their commitment to see golf remain in Siloam Springs. I've been in the golf business 43 years. I started when I was 9, so I just want to say that it makes me feel less old. And I've been involved in a lot of golf course projects. My company now is a small company. We operate 12 golf properties, but I ran a very large golf company before I retired from that venture and started this one. And I can just tell you on a personal note that, a lot of people, I think they misunderstand the importance that golf can play in a community. Golf is an interesting sport. It teaches people, especially young people, a lot of very important values in their life. Golf's a game where things like integrity are a major part of the game. I don't know of any other sport that I've ever played or been involved with where you call a penalty on yourself. I think in life, it's important to recognize when you make a mistake and do something wrong. That's something that's taught in golf. While golf can be a team sport, it's also an individual sport. You never pass the ball in golf, right? You're responsible for what you do, and you have to take responsibility for what you do, what you accomplish, and what your failures are. And those are the things that are being taught at the first tee, right, with these young people. They're being taught much more than how to hit a golf ball or how to putt a golf ball. They're being taught the importance of teamwork, taking responsibility, being a good citizen, being a good student. And, golf plays a number of other roles in our community. Raising money for charitable organizations. The Ability Tree tournament coming up at the hospital is a great example of that. The money raised through the Siloam Springs Chamber of Commerce golf tournament that goes back into the community is a great example of that. Simmons raises money through their golf event that goes back into this community. Golf is a place, and golf's one of the only games where a grandpa like me can play golf with a 5-year-old granddaughter. I can't play basketball I could try, I guess. But golf's a game where it doesn't matter how old you are, you can spend invaluable time with your grandchildren. You can spend invaluable time with your best friends. You can spend invaluable time with your business partners or your future business partners. When people move to this town or move industry to this town, golf plays an important role in the recreation opportunity in the community. And so I applaud you for recognizing that last year when you made a decision to make sure that golf doesn't go extinct. I can tell you somebody that's been in the golf industry a long time in an executive position that when golf courses go extinct in small cities, it's a bad sign. And the ripple effect is significant. It is. People don't realize just how much of an impact. They see a bunch of old guys like me out playing golf and they think that's all that golf is a good old boys club of a bunch of old guys getting around playing golf. But it's much, much more than that. You can see that in those pictures, that it's much, much more than that. And so I think it's important that golf remain. And I own some golf courses and manage some golf courses in bigger communities. And in a bigger city, Kansas City, for example, where I have a golf course, if a golf course goes out of business, golf still remains. There's plenty of golf opportunity. But if golf goes out in Siloam Springs, it's gone. And that opportunity for student athletes, that opportunity for kids, that opportunity for parents and grandparents and families, for community leaders, people of industry here, it's gone. They'll have to find something else to do. And I think that's tragic if it happens. It's self-serving for me to say that, but I think that the evidence is pretty clear that golf plays a much bigger role than just a couple of hours of recreation and a few beers with your friends, right? It's much deeper than that. And so I left you this just so you'd have it. If you kind of want to know what was spent, where the city's money went and what it was involved in, this list kind of details much of that expense. and it's been crucial. We have a long, long way to go. I don't want to paint the picture as all rosy and the golf course is as stable as it'll ever be, and its future is still uncertain. The golf course needs infrastructure to get it to a place where it's playable, right? And it's desirable. And so we've made a lot of headway, and we've had some headwinds in that process, but we're alive and kicking. So I hope that the city will continue to consider the importance that the golf course plays in the community, would be open and willing to see how the city can continue to help the golf course survive. I know that we're committed to it. The board members at the club are committed to it. We've got a lot of volunteers mowing grass and cutting cups and turning on sprinkler heads to help us mitigate some of the operational costs at the club. And so with that, I would just say again, thank you, and be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate that update. We haven't had the opportunity to hear from you in a while, so appreciate that. Directors, David?
Madam Mayor, thank you. Thank you for being here, Bryan. Thank you for the update. It's good to have you let the public know where their investment went and what's being done with it. You're right, those cart storages out by the road are so, I always heard Simon Sager built those himself before he died. That's what the rumor was, so I don't know. They're pretty old and they're run down, and you're absolutely right. That's a big goal that needs to be taken care of. The city may have a used commercial zero-turn mower, that we might let go cheap. You may need to get with Parks and Rec and see if there's one that's not being used. But I will say, when this came to the board, there was a lot of public opposition because people didn't understand. And when you can look at the benefits of what goes into, deals are made. You mentioned business partner. Deals are made on golf courses, and it is very important for the business community to have a golf course. I looked at it that the $35,000 was much cheaper than if the golf course went away. That's still owned by the city. It's a great deal of land, and we would probably end up having to turn it into a park, and it would be way more than $35,000 to maintain that for a park, maybe even up to $100,000 per year, if we had kind of been given that back and had to maintain it. So I thought it was an inexpensive way of keeping it operated and also have someone else take care of it, which you guys are, and we're appreciative. So
Thank you, Director. I do want to mention too that the city has loaned us equipment. They've loaned us a top dresser. They've loaned us, I think, a number of pieces of equipment. The city has been a tremendous partner, the Parks and Recs Department specifically, in helping us fill the holes that we can't fill ourselves. And so
I know
grateful
in
to them.
the Parks Advisory Committee report that we got, they mentioned about trying to help more with the golf course. So
We'll take it.
It's something I think they're always, advising on and talking to our top management with.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Bryan.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question. Can you give us any idea of the percentage of membership increase? I know we were sort of at an all-time low a year ago.
Well, Director Hunt, we thought we had about 70 members when we started.
Mm-hmm.
But as usual, right, we got, just because of kind of the transfer of management, we found out we really had about 50 members.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that term members loosely. I consider a member somebody that pays membership dues, right? And so we had some people that fell into the class of membership but really weren't paying or participating as members. So the truth is we had about 42 members, and we're up to 57 members. And so it's not a great increase, but it is an increase. It's hard to sell memberships. It's really hard to sell daily fee green fees when you don't have a really good product to sell. Of course, we started with a product that was, I mean, nobody wants to get on a roller coaster that, you know, has wheels missing on the roller coaster. Nobody wants to go to a hamburger place where, you know, the hamburgers are no good, right? It's the same in golf. Golf's no different. And so the product that we started with was horrible. And, you know, we've improved it a great deal, but it's a long way. I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you, it's a long way from being a really good golf course. But the good news is that if we can keep moving forward, it can be. We've revitalized golf courses before. The layout, the bone structure, the water supply, it's just absolutely essential, and it is there. Everything is there from a basic needs standpoint. So if we can get the infrastructure in place, and members and patrons will continue to be patient with us as we improve the golf course, we'll get it to a place where I would hope everybody in this community could drive by that golf course, whether they use it or not, and think, I'm really proud that that's in my community, that it looks like the other assets that this great city has available to it from a recreation standpoint.
And apart from the membership, the number of events have increased. I'm really excited to see the first tee involvement. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Mayor, I was gonna mention, Brian, you brought up a great point that the general public just doesn't know, that Sager Creek does begin right there at Sager Creek, or Palm Springs Country Club. And, you know, you gotta protect the headwaters of what is our trademark, basically. Part of our logo is the S for Sager Creek and is the creek. So that's a great point that you brought up, is that we all need to be protective of that, where that all begins.
Agreed.
All right, Bryan, thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Best to you, everybody. Take care.
Next, we have introduction of some new firefighters by Chief Kreiner.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Jeremy Kreiner, Fire Chief. So it is a privilege and an honor to be in front of you tonight to introduce several of our new firefighters that we've brought on board this year. I think, all right, everybody's up here. So most of these individuals started at the beginning of this year. They went through emergency medical technician training. They went through our internal fire academy, our certification regional fire academy, and then spent several orientation shifts on their duty days in preparation for getting checked off to work out in the line. What will happen from this point forward is they'll spend the next year on a probationary period while they're doing on-the-job training out there in the field. So they'll learn aspects of emergency response. They'll be out there doing the job alongside of our other firefighters. So I'll start over here on the right. Make sure I got my list correct here. So on my far right is Joshua Lawfulmacher. He comes to us from the Tulsa metro area. Next to him is Braden Bullington, who is a Farmington native. Next to him is Ian Austin, who is a Siloam Springs native. Next is Miles Harvey, who is also from the Farmington area. To my immediate right is Wiley Hill, who comes to us from the Oklahoma City metro. To my left is Nathaniel Bland, who is from the Springdale area and is also a Army National Guard member. To his left is John Sally, who is also a Siloam Springs native. To his left is Ryan Gunner Fiddler, who is also a Siloam Springs native and is also a veteran of the United States Air Force. To his left is Dylan Abbott, who is from the Claremore area and is a United States Marine Corps veteran. To his left, Michael James, who is from the Hot Springs area. And then lastly, Charlie Jones, who is from Siloam Springs and is also currently in the Army National Guard. So with that, I'm happy to present to you the latest round of firefighters for the Siloam Springs Fire Department.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate it very much. We always love to see our new firemen, and I'm sure you've told them how much our community appreciates the service that you all and that department give this community. We feel very, very safe whenever we have someone that's injured or sick that we need to call upon you all. You all respond and take care of us well, and we appreciate that, and we look forward to you all being with us a long time.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yep.
Chief, with everybody here, is there anybody at the station? We've got a lot of representation tonight, and it's really awesome to see.
And next, we have an introduction of our new school resource officers by Captain Spicer.
Firemen clear out.
Take your time.
Board, Madam Mayor, Captain Derek Spicer, Siloam Springs Police Department. Before I announce these three amazing individuals in front of me, I just want to give the city, the board, the school district a little bit of credit, because if you remember at the end of 2001 and 2002, there was a lot of clamoring for more SROs based on current events at the time. And in collaboration with the schools and the police department and the city, we were able to make that happen. With the recent retirement of Sergeant Bland, Sergeant Strickland was promoted to the sergeant's position over the SRO detachment. But since then, I think before introducing him, it's important to remember that being selected as a fireman, being selected as a police officer, it's strenuous. And it is not an easy process on either side of the house, red or blue. But when you're looking for an SRO, you're looking for something special. You're looking for someone who has a servant's heart. You're looking for someone who's not only passionate about the job, but you're also looking for someone who is passionate about children. And I would present that the earliest impact that law enforcement has on our youth is in the SROs. They are mentors, they are counselors, they are friends, they are confiders, they are all of those and more. And what we were blessed enough to do is hire directly into the SRO position. And in doing that, we've got roughly 40 years of experience in law enforcement amongst these three people, and that's a guesstimate. But a couple of them you may already know. I'll start at the end. Mindy Nading, she came to us. Oh, also, I want to mention that they all came to us from other Northwest Arkansas agencies, and they chose Siloam Springs to come and be an SRO, which I think speaks highly of our department and highly of our city, because we don't get to just choose them, they choose us. And they did, and we're blessed by that. But Mindy came to us from another agency, and she has approximately 10 years experience, and she's done a little bit of everything. Some of you may know Vence Motsinger. He's our resident volunteer coach, our SRO, very passionate about kids, making an impact on their life, and they all are. Mr. Thomas Reed comes to us from another agency, having served, a very wonderful career with another agency, decided he wasn't quite done yet and wanted to come over and do a little work for Siloam Springs. So these are going to be your three new SROs. Once school starts again, like I said, Vence and Mindy started around the first of the fall semester, so that you may have seen them around. But what I will say is that we are blessed to have them. We didn't just look for someone to fill a plug. We looked for experience, and we looked for the right people, and I believe God sent them to us, and they're here for a reason. So you have the opportunity to speak if you would like to. They're all good?
Yeah, well, and I will say the same thing to you all. We are very proud of our police department and the job that you do. And I will tell you, as a grandmother who has a grandson in one of our schools, makes me feel very good to know that we have experienced officers there watching and keeping guard over them. So thank you all very much for the service that you do. And while you're still standing there, I know, Mark, you took a picture. Could we have maybe Deandra come up and take a picture with all of you also, since she has been promoted to?
You don't have to.
Yes.
You good with that?
Congratulations, Deandra.
Yes.
Now, Mindy and Vence have been training today, correct? Yes. Y'all were teaching, so they just came back from the Northwest Arkansas Law Enforcement Academy, and they've been teaching all day, so they're not in uniform, but they've had a long day.
And we appreciate them being here. Thank you.
Now I answer everything. Way to go, Vence.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. And Derek, Captain Spicer,
Yes,
before
ma'am.
you sit down, would you give us a quick update on the calls from last night?
Oh, yeah, good.
For fireworks?
Yes, for fireworks.
We pulled the numbers this morning from the 2nd through the 4th, and we had 31 fireworks calls. I don't have them broken down just yet. I can get those to you, but overall, there were 31 calls.
Thank you. That's good information. I'm sure the board would appreciate that. And if that breakdown, if you could do that, I think that would be great for them to see
Yep,
that.
we can do that.
Perfect. Thank
All right.
you.
Staff's available for questions.
Directors, any more questions?
We had a
comments?
report on the fire department, didn't we get an email on the fire
Yes, we
department?
did. We did.
I mean, I saw a dumpster fire last night. You hear about dumpster fires, there was one going on last night, and so it does happen.
It does. That's right.
Do you feel like they were down compared to previous years?
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but I think overall, they would be down based on strictly the number of calls. And once I break it down, and when I spoke with them this morning, I believe the calls that came in were primarily after hours, because people had been updated as to what the hours you could shoot your fireworks off were. And the calls we were getting were, hey, it's an hour and a half after the cutoff, and I'm still getting fireworks calls. But it was a busy weekend, but luckily fireworks weren't the busiest thing we had to do.
I was going to say during my director's comment, I've in the previous years, I've received 20-something calls in the last 2 years. This year I got 1 call. That's it.
Must be doing something right.
We must be doing something right. Team
All right.
effort.
Thank
Anything
you.
else? All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll have a blessed day.
Thank you. All right, with that, we will move on to our consent agenda. And before I start reading through this, we have had a request from Mr. Zadner that we remove the item H, which is dedication of utility easements at the 3900 block of Highway 412 East. So that item will be removed from this agenda. So we will move on to consent agenda. Item A, workshop minutes, June 20, 2023. Item B, regular meeting minutes, June 20, 2023. C, special called minutes, June 22nd, 2023. D, special called minutes, June 23rd, 2023. Item E, special called minutes, June 27, 2023. Item F, special called minutes, June 29, 2023. Item G, special called minutes, July 3rd, 2023. Item H is removed. Item I, dedication of utility easements, 224 and 302 South College Street. Directors, are there any items that you would like to have removed for further discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next, on our regularly scheduled items, contracts and approvals. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Minnis Center and Christina. I believe you'll lead that discussion.
Yes. We previously brought before the board a memorandum of understanding at the request of the Minnis Center, and I believe it was tabled due to some questions that needed to be answered regarding the need for the land for some other use. So now it is back before the board, and staff's available for questions.
Thank you. Directors, any questions concerning this memorandum of understanding? If not, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this particular item for the Minnis Center. There is none. Yes, David?
Madam Mayor, I did have a question.
Sure.
I thought we had tabled it until we had something presented on the rec center. I thought that was, I knew there was a question of whether we need it for fire, but I thought that was also brought up as until we had something. I thought there was gonna be a workshop or something on a future rec center, but I may be wrong.
The motion was to table until the July 5th, 2023 meeting.
I believe that, I'm just checking with Renee here. I believe the motion was that we tabled it until we could have the discussion from Chief Kreiner about the further use of that, if they still thought that was viable for use as a fire station, or if they thought another location would be better. And you know, we did have that workshop with him a couple of meetings ago, so.
I just recall bringing up that I have a problem supporting something this early when we have a proposal from staff for a rec center that could give the Boys and Girls Club building to the Minnis Center. So that's why I thought that was a problem that was going to be addressed before this came back to us. But I guess I was wrong.
Christina?
Actually, it's part of the memorandum of understanding that if the recreation center is built and they receive the building from the Boys and Girls Club, then they cannot exercise the lease. The lease is for them to, or the memorandum of understanding is for them to do fundraising for either the Boys and Girls Club renovation or the building of the a building on the property owned by the city.
There was one part of the contract I had a question on. It was letter I, surrender of the property. It states that any personal property owned by the center which shall remain on the project after the termination of the lease. And then it says, and the removal of the center from the project. Does that mean the building would be removed?
Right, no, the building would remain.
Well, I thought that was the normal case, but it said, and the removal of the center, so I didn't know. That was at the bottom, or about 2/3 of the way down the paragraph of letter I.
That just means that they would remove their operations.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Jay. That was it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Betsy.
Well, and it's
I'm
spelled
sorry?
M-A-N-A.
Yes.
Is it supposed to be changed? Is it supposed to be 2 N's?
I think that it is correct in the memorandum. Is that correct? Yes.
Yes, it has been corrected.
Okay.
Betsy?
My understanding, part of the reason they wanted this now, like Christina said, was they want to do fundraising. Can't they do fundraising even if they don't have a memorandum of understanding? And I guess, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, the memorandum of understanding just is something from the city showing that we are willing to give them the land should it come to that.
Right. And so it seems like they wouldn't need this to start the fundraising because they know they need a building, they need something regardless. I have a little, even though I think the Minnis Center is awesome, I have a little concern over giving away city property when we're growing so much. I know technically it stays owned by the city, but it does become unusable by the city. Yeah, I would love to see it under the rec center, the Boys and Girls Club, and that would give the Minnis Center. That just concerns me because we can't grow more land in the middle of the city. So.
Is your microphone on? I can't hear you.
I know, it's not.
You've got to speak into the front of it.
Yeah.
Then it'll be too loud. So backing up, the fundraising, they need the fundraising regardless of whether it's this or they take over the Boys and Girls Club. And then I was just saying, I have a little bit of a hard time, and I did hear from a citizen on it, that basically giving away, even though I know we retain the ownership of the land, but it becomes unusable. I have a little bit of a hard time giving away city property when the city's growing so fast and we might need it for something else. I love the idea of the Boys and Girls Club coming to a rec center. But yeah, I know part of the reason was they wanted to start fundraising now, but it seems like they could do that anyway one way or the other, they're going to need it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mindy.
For me, one way to look at this is the Mannis Center does provide a service for citizens that no one else provides, that the city does not provide. That's kind of one of the way we've, one of the things that's come into play with contracts with other organizations when they're able to provide a service that the city doesn't provide. And I think the Mannis Center does provide a pretty important service that the city doesn't. So that's one way to look at it.
And Madam Mayor, I'm not saying at all it's not extremely important. I think they are extremely important part of our community. I just like the idea of them taking over the Boys and Girls Club better.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
Betsy, I felt the same way about locking up a piece of city-owned property, in essence, giving it away. But when you get into the nitty-gritty of the memorandum, there's still a contract that would have to come back. This is the basic, but I mean the groundwork for the contract, but it still have to be a contract to come back. It is also delineated on letter O that there would be rent paid in the same vein as the ground leases at the airport are done. So when we lease the land underneath those hangars, the plane owner builds the hangar, but they pay rent. And so the rent for the Mannis Center using the property will be the same rate as the airport. I had not understood that before, and so I kind of looked at it a different way as I realized that. I did have a bit of a problem in that letter C, should the parties use a title company, each party pays 1/2 of the closing fees. I'm like, we're providing this property. Why should we be paying any fees to be basically giving away property that it seemed more like a real estate deal where each party pays half the closing fees. And I thought, since this is to the advantage of Mannis Center, I was kind of surprised that we may end up having to fork out some money for the contract to close. But I just wanted to give a perspective that that's how I changed my view on the whole property being locked up.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? If not, do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding for the Mannis Center?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you, Christina. Next are our ordinances. The first ordinance, 23-13. There is a request from Director Blair that this be removed from the agenda and no longer considered in the future. So unless there is an objection from one of the other board members, we will consider that removed and move on. Next would be ordinance 23-15, third reading, vacation of utility easements 224 and 302 South College Street. And Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a third reading for a request to vacate 4 portions of existing utility easements located at 224 and 302 South College Street. Staff is still recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Is there any questions or comments from directors? There being none, is there anyone in the audience that has a comment or question on ordinance 23-15? There is none. So directors, I will come back to you. If no questions at this time, I'll ask for a motion to place ordinance 23-15 on its third and final reading, suspending the rules and reading title only.
Madam Mayor?
Yes,
I do
Mindy?
have a
All right.
question. This is in my ward, and I've spoken with some of the owners of the properties nearby, and and one of them is here tonight. Just want to make sure everything is okay. So, yeah, there were some questions. This has been a long process, so I just want to make sure everything, okay, thank you. Okay.
So moved.
Have a second? Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-15, an ordinance vacating and abandoning portions of 2 utility easement right-of-ways at 224 and 302 South College Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-15?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is ordinance 23-17, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from A1 to C2, the 400 block of North Progress Avenue. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is a rezoning request to rezone 0.44 acres located at the 400 to 500 block of North Progress Avenue from A1 Agriculture to C2 Roadway Commercial. This is a survey for the site. In 2016, the lot was created through a lot split that was approved by the Planning Commission. At that time, the Planning Commission still approved lot splits. When the lot split was approved, it left a remaining portion along the frontage of the lot zoned as agriculture, and the rear portion was still zoned as C2, and this did not meet code standards. Therefore, a condition was added that this property be rezoned to C2 upon any development of the property. Staff has been approached regarding a possible development for the site, so in order to proceed with this development of the lot, the applicant must first rezone the remaining agricultural portion to match the primary commercial zoning of the lot. And this is the future land use map. The future land use is calling for local commercial, therefore the proposed C2 zoning is in line with the intent in the future land use map. And this is the overall site view. So this is that C2 portion that I was talking about. That's the rear of the lot. So this is all one lot currently. Staff is recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Directors, comments or questions? There being none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-17? There being none,
Madam Mayor,
directors?
I
Yes,
will
David.
say I have to abstain because of family involved. I'm just letting it be known.
Thank you. So with that, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-17 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Allen,
Abstain.
Abstain.
Carroll,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-17, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code City Zoning Map, rezoning from A1 to C2, property located at the 400 block of North Progress Avenue.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 23-18, first reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2 to PD, the 2600 block of North Country Club Road. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a rezoning request to rezone 13.59 acres located at the 2600 block of North Country Club Road from R2 residential medium to PD planned development. This is the survey for the site. As you can see on this slide, they are only proposing the PD for a portion of the lot. The remaining frontage will be rezoned later. On the screen is the concept plan for the proposed planned development. Shown here in the southwest corner of the site is an existing 60-foot access easement, so that's here, right? And utility easement, which will be utilized to access the proposed PD. This access will connect to the North Lincoln Street with future development of the property. It should be noted that the master street plan calls for a future collector street to connect North Lincoln to the future extension of Oak Crest Road. Therefore, this concept and the street layouts shown may be amended with future approvals of the development. And this is a more zoomed in version of that concept plan so that you guys can see it a little more clearly. They are proposing a zero lot line townhome concept with a total of 148 residential dwelling units and associated amenities. The townhome buildings will be designed to be broken into 4 to 6 units per building as shown on this concept plan. With the zero lot line concept, each townhome will be considered its own lot and sold individually. Amenities such as a playground and pickleball court will be provided towards the frontage of the complex. So those are shown right here. And a trail will be provided along the detention basin in the rear. So that's all right here. That's a trail that will connect to those sidewalks. They are also showing sidewalks throughout the entirety of the proposal, including sidewalks shown in between the buildings. So that's these right here. Those sidewalks were requested by staff in order to create a more walkable neighborhood. Additionally, they are showing a proposed dumpster location here in the southwest corner of the site. So that's what this little gray box is. Again, the frontage along North Country Club Road is not included in this request and will be brought before you for review as a separate rezoning request as indicated on this concept plan. And this is a brief description of the proposal taken from the PD narrative that was included in your packets. Some things to note from the narrative is that this development will have a POA in place to maintain the common areas such as the pickleball court and the playground area. Additionally, restrictive covenants will be in place to prevent on-street parking throughout the development. And this slide shows the requested standards for this proposal. Again, they are requesting zero lot line townhome concept, and therefore they are requesting to vary from the PD standards on lot widths, setbacks, lot area, and lot coverage. The requested standards will allow for the townhomes to be on individual lots that are sold separately. And these are the renderings that were provided in the PD narrative. The townhomes will look similar to this with varying color schemes. And this is the future land use map for it. It's calling for neighborhoods 2. The neighborhoods 2 designation describes townhomes as very appropriate. Therefore, the concept provided is in line with the overall intent of the property. And this is the overall site view of the property. You can see the previously approved Endora Park complex over here to the north. Additionally, as you can see, the property is generally surrounded by vacant land or industrial uses. Staff is recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions, and staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors? Yes, David.
Madam Mayor, Megan, can you tell us again what you said about where is the planned extension of the street? Is it?
I'll take you back to that slide real quick. So this is the more zoomed out version so you can see it. So they have an access here. North Lincoln has on the master street plan, it's showing that an extension will go from North Lincoln to the new Oak Crest through here.
Okay.
So
all along that west border.
So their streets and their layout of their buildings may change with the future development, but they will have to come back through for that approval. And so we'll address that with then.
I got to say, it is so nice to see the executive summary and all these other bits of information in this, which is not normal, and it's very easy to read, and it's just nice to see all this. And pickleball courts, yay! So I like to see all that for a new housing development. So
we have started requiring that with our PDs, and we are going to be releasing a PD guide that kind of lets applicants know what we expect in their narratives to be similar to that.
Yeah, well, the breakdown, the scope and concept, everything was just really professionally done. It was nice to be able to know the plan. So we appreciate it.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Carol.
I am particularly interested in this because I like the affordable housing that people can own, and that there is going to be some, the pickleball courts and those types of things. I think this is something that our community is needing, and I'm glad to see it come forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Ordinance 23-18? If not, directors, I'll come back to you. Any further comments or questions? If not, do I have a motion to place Ordinance 23-18 on its first reading, suspending the rules and reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Christina?
Ordinance number 23-18, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R2 to PD, property located at the 2600 block of North Country Club Road.
Thank you. Next are our resolutions. Resolution 39-23, a significant development permit for 420 North Simon Sager Avenue, the Reserves Apartments. This is a revision. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a revision of a previously approved significant development permit request for the Reserves Apartments located at 420 North Simon Sager Avenue, directly behind Lowe's. The revised proposal is similar to what was previously approved. However, the total number of dwelling units has decreased by 8 units, with a new total of 200 units proposed. This is the previously approved site plan. The changes related to this wetland area that's shown in here. As you can see from this previously approved plan, they previously had 2 drive crosses running east and west within this wetland area. And this is the revised site plan. You can see some of the significant changes to the front area here, with most of the drives and buildings staying out of that wetland area now. You can see they're attempting to stay clear of everything, so they push all the buildings back and open this up, and this will be more green space towards the front. This is the revised landscape plan. There really hasn't been any changes other than to the interior parking lot landscaping, and that's because they had to reconfigure their drive, so that changes how many parking spaces and islands that they have in there. But the exterior boundaries are exactly as what was previously approved. And these are the elevations. These have not changed since the previous approval. These are what you have already seen. And this is the overall site view. You can see it sits directly behind Lowe's. Staff is recommending approval of this request with one needed condition relating to the drainage and utility easements being filed. However, it should be noted the revised plan no longer requires the previous condition relating to off-site drainage easements. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors, comments or questions?
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David?
Megan, I don't expect you to make us all understand now, but I'm surprised at the size of the street fees, almost $34,000. I was on the board when David Cameron instituted street fees, but I never fully grasped how they're determined, because I know we've approved some where it looks like a huge development and it's less than 10,000, 3,000 or 4,000, and then this one's so high. What's the ratio? Is there some ratio or something?
So Kevin actually handles all the street fees for our project, so I will let him speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Moore, city engineer. Our street fees are based off of the traffic impact for developments as they come in. We use the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual that estimates just kind of across the nation what you can expect from single-family homes, multifamily, restaurants, coffee shops, that type of thing. It's $25.64 a trip, and with the multifamily, that's $169 per unit. So that's where that number comes from.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address Resolution 39-23? Directors, any comments or questions further? If not, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 39-23 for the significant development permit?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Thank you. Next, Resolution 40-23, significant development permit, 1700 block of East Kenwood Street. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a significant development permit request to construct a 10,381 square foot commercial retail and bank building with an associated bank drive-through. This project is located at the 1600 block of East Kenwood Street and the 1800 block of Highway 412 East. As you can see from the general area map on the screen, it is the pie-shaped property that sits on the corner of East Kenwood and Highway 412 there. On the screen is the site plan for the proposed development. The two-story portion of the building is intended to serve as the bank area, and the one-story portion will be utilized for the commercial, retail, and office space. The proposed bank drive-through does meet the minimum drive-through standards. There are two proposed drives shown, with one drive accessing Highway 412 and the other shown to access East Kenwood Street. It should be noted this is right out only driveway here for the Highway 412 one. Additionally, there will be constructing sidewalks along both Highway 412 and East Kenwood Street. Both sidewalks will tie into the development to allow for better pedestrian mobility. The proposed dumpster is shown here. This has been approved by sanitation and it will be screened. It should be noted that there is a 27% parking reduction request included with this proposal, which is considered a reduction of 10 required parking spaces. This is the landscape plan for the proposed development. They will have a 6-foot landscape buffer with trees along all sides of the site, as well as interior parking lot landscaping. Additionally, as I have shown on this slide, there is an abutting lot to the west that is currently zoned R1/C2. As a condition of approval, the applicant will be required to provide opaque screening along the property boundary of this abutting residential lot prior to building permit issuance. This is required because the C2 portion of that lot is considered unusable due to the lot dimensions. At this time, the only use that is permitted by right on the west lot would be residential. With this in mind, staff has to consider that at any point in time a residential home can be built by right due to the existing zoning on that lot. Therefore, the applicant is required to provide sufficient opaque screening for any future residential use to the west prior to building permit issuance. And this is the overall site view of the property. Staff is recommending approval of this request with 4 needed conditions. The first is requiring the applicant to submit a photometric plan that complies with the exterior parking lot lighting standards prior to building permit issuance. Second, the applicant will be required to provide opaque screening along the property line that abuts the viable residentially zoned lot to the west prior to building permit issuance. Third, the condition is related to the need to file access easements via separate instrument as directed by the city engineer prior to certificate of occupancy issuance. And finally, the fourth condition is regarding the height restrictions within C2 zoning districts. The construction plan set shall comply with the height restrictions prior to building permit issuance. The reasoning for this is the elevations were not provided with the final submittal, so staff has no way to confirm that the height meets the standards, so we have to put a condition there. Thank you. Staff is available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Directors, David.
Megan, I thought you only did a requirement for an opaque covering like trees or whatever if it's next to residential.
That's correct.
Well, you just said the lot to the left or to the west is commercial.
It's R1/C2. So this is all one lot right here. And this is R1/C2. And so what it is there's a small sliver of it right here that is zoned C2. That's all C2.
You have a lot that's half and half. I've never heard of such a thing.
So they did a property line adjustment and that created it made it into one lot. So there's such thing as split zoning. You can do split zonings. And so the portion of the lot that is C2, the dimensions of that portion is not viable for a C2. You cannot construct on it or use it for a commercial purpose whatsoever because the lot does not meet the minimum requirements for a C2 zoning. And so the only use that is permitted by right on that lot at this point with R1 would be a single family residential house. So at this point, the only thing that can happen is a single family residential house unless they come through with a rezoning request.
Why would you not make the owner of the commercial piece put up an opaqueness instead of the triangle property? I'm just saying because you're supposed to be, are you asking that the opaqueness be on the piece of C2?
No, it needs to be on, I'll show you their landscape plan. See how their landscaping is here? Those trees are already provided. Where those trees are shown We have simply asked them to change the species to be an opaque species because the current species shown is not opaque and will not provide sufficient screening if a residential home was to be constructed there. The trees are required. They are showing the trees in the location that they're required. It's just the species that needs to be changed to meet this condition of approval.
But what I'm saying is you're requiring the owner of the triangle to put up trees to block the home on the residential when the two lots don't abut.
They do abut. That residential and C2 is one lot.
I understand that, but why would you not require it on the commercial part of that lot?
We require it on the lot that's proposing the development. They're required to provide sufficient screening for abutting residentials. It's in our code section for landscaping.
If it's next to residential.
Yes. And the lot is primarily zoned R1. The lot can only be used for residential purposes at this time. The only thing that can occur on the lot is a single-family residential. At this point, we have to consider that the lot is a residential lot, and at any point, they can build a home on that lot. So sufficient screening is required to provide opaque screening from that residential use, should it ever happen.
Anyone else? Anyone in the audience that would like to address this resolution 40-23? Ron?
Good evening, Ron Holmeyer, Civil Engineering, 701 South Mount Street. I'm going to carry on with some of the comments that Mr. Director Allen was making. The City Code, Section 102-53, refers to abutting residential or facing residential in both Section E1A and B, and it does not, anywhere that I can see, say anything about viable use or partially split use zoning on those lots. And the reason that lot has multiple zonings on it is at the time of the lot split, to create the triangle on the corner, there were 4 parcels under one ownership. And when they got through, they had 5 parcels under one ownership, and they stretched the residential lot over to this triangular lot. Staff requested that, and that was why we now have the lot next door that has 2 zones on it. And yes, there would have been a thin strip of land left of commercial, and it could be construed that they were trying to leave a thin strip to avoid having to put in screening, but it didn't make any sense from a business perspective to have a lot line on the opposite side of the ditch and minimize the access to the remainder of the commercial property. And why, I guess there was a good reason for stretching the lot over to the other, but I would have probably, if I had been doing it, would have recommended that they just combine all of the parcels under the single ownership to where you only had 2 parcels when you were done, instead of remaining. The current owner still has 4 parcels, 2 commercially zoned, 1 residentially zoned only, and 1 residential and commercial. So I think this whole concern could have been avoided if they had just combined all the lots together, because no one's going to tie up that much commercial land just to build one house on one or the other of the residential pieces that were zoned. And then maybe they would have had a good reason to come forward and rezone the 2 residential to commercial at some point in the future. But, you know, the code says that if abutting residential, this does not butt residential zone property. And so therefore we would like to have that condition to switch out the trees for the leyland cypresses removed from this approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, is
I'm
there
sorry.
anyone else in the audience? If not, yes, Ken.
Megan or Kevin, I need you to educate me. That lot if hypothetically, someone decided to build a house on that lot, understand that it's a split lot, it's got two zonings, but it's all one lot, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So if they were to build a house, does it have to stay on the R2 side, or since it's all one lot, could it
They
cover
could-
that whole area?
They could cover the whole area as long as they meet building
That's why you are
setbacks.
requiring
Mhm.
change in trees, even though it is a commercial strip, it still could have a house on it that is a residence, and by code would need
Yes.
that change.
Yes, that future residential would be looking directly into the parking lot of this business.
Okay, thank you.
Directors, anyone else?
Megan,
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
that lot that's two different zones, the residential part could also be changed to commercial, correct?
Yes, they can rezone the lot to make it commercial. We were considering including that in the condition language, but at that time when we did the condition language, the same owner was not still the owner of that lot there, so we can't request that they rezone a lot that they don't own. And so that's why that wasn't in the condition language.
I'm still confused. What was the reason for stretching? Mr. Homeyer said stretching the residential. If it wasn't stretched, what would it have been?
There would have been a remaining C2 portion, so he's right. So when this came through as a lot split, I'll try to clean that up. This was all one C2 lot here. So this is C2 down here, and this was a small sliver here to that C2 lot. Staff received a comment from our previous city administrator with concerns about them possibly avoiding residential screening in the future and using this small sliver of C2 as a way to get out of screening in the future. At that time, staff brought up the comment to the applicant. We did give options for consolidating the lot or moving the property line, whichever he felt was easier. At that time, we adjusted the property line adjustment so that this exact thing would not happen. That was the entire reason for pulling the line over, was so that at least it had the R1 zoning. They could not avoid this screening requirement.
Just so odd to me that there's already trees there and there's not a house right next door. So it's just odd to require. I hate to see good trees taken out and put different trees that have to get into the ground and get acclimated.
Do you mean trees existing right?
I thought you said there's already trees there. Or
No.
I thought Mr. Homeyer said there were.
No, there's you can see on the site plan, there's no existing trees along this property line here.
But I thought Mr. Homeyer said there were trees already.
There's trees here on the plan.
Okay.
And we're asking that they change the species of those trees. We're not asking them to add any additional trees or place the trees anywhere other than what they're proposing here. We're just asking them to change the species. We did recommend Leland cypress. However, they do have options for opaque screening. It does not have to be Leland cypress as long as it is considered an opaque tree. I just want to put that on the record.
Or trees that I couldn't see or something, but I'm sorry, I got confused there.
Anyone else, directors?
Is this, it looks low where the west line is, at least on this overhead drone map. Is that a low-lying area? Well, it almost looks like there's drainage under the street there on the west far single line border of the property. Is there, because that's a new street, Kenwood's or not a new street, but a newly paved street. And I know they put a lot of work into it. Is that culverts there or box culverts or?
Yes, that's correct. Kenwood Street, we widened those culverts when we rebuilt that street, and then there's a drainage easement along that shared red line to accommodate that ditch because it is so large.
Oh, yeah, I see it goes across and heads north in the little canal there.
Yes, that's the Brentwood Drainage Project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
I
think I
okay,
saw
Lisa.
someone's hand raised.
That's what I was gonna ask. Can we specifically ask the gentleman to speak?
You may.
I would like to know what this gentleman has to say.
Please state your name and address for the
My name is
record.
Richard Long. I'm the developer of the property, Madam Mayor and directors. There's a little bit of confusion here. When I originally bought this property, I was buying the site that's marked site, and the property line was at the ditch. The center line of the ditch is what we submitted to buy. Through the process, I sat in a meeting with Megan and Ben. They asked me to go to the property owner that I was buying it from and get them to move the residential lot line down to what I was buying. That's what I did. And I had to pay more money for a piece of property I wasn't even going to use. So now they've come back and said I have to put in screening, when the conversation that I had with Philip, who's no longer here, was not an attempt to avoid screening. His exact statement was, there's a commercial piece that Mr. Cry owns between the ditch and the other property, and there's trees on the residential lot. So I don't understand, and if it were just a few trees, I wouldn't care. But they've required opaque trees planted as such to screen. That's not 4 trees. We're talking about trees planted like a picket fence. And it's still not going to be opaque. Those trees are years before they fill that in. And again, the statute clearly says, if I abut C2, I don't have to do it. And I did that at the request of the city, the planning department, Ben and Megan. I sat right in the boardroom in there, and that's what they told me I needed to do. I called Ron Holmeyer, and he thought I was crazy for them splitting adding a residential lot to have 2 zonings and then be widened. And then I had to go to Harold Cry and get him to agree to it. And it's made a mess.
So if it's abutting the other property, you don't have to put any trees at all?
I'm putting trees there, but not...
No matter what?
The what?
No matter what, you're putting trees there.
I'm putting just regular landscape trees, not an opaque set of cypress trees, which are much more expensive.
Cost? Okay, that's what I'm curious. I'm wondering why, because the cost difference is like...
It's significant. Plus the wording in it says that they have to create an opaque fence, which means it's got to be solid, basically. You can't see through it. I can't put a fence or put a tree every 6 or 8 feet or every 10 feet like typical. I have to have them so you can't see through it.
So how many trees did you plan on originally buying? I'm just curious.
Whatever we had on the drawing, you'd have to ask Ron. He counted them all.
Are they going to have to, if they're picking what you're saying, do they have to have more trees than what we see in that drawing?
We can make sure that we can add language to the condition like what we did for Heritage Ranch to make sure that they're a mature height whenever they are planted, like similar to what we did. But
I see 4 trees in that picture. So are they?
Yes.
What I'm saying is, if I see 4 trees in that picture, and you're saying we approve it, he only has to buy 4 of those trees?
Leland cypress, as long as it's considered opaque, and he only has to do it down to the lot line of this R1, not all the way down the side, strictly to the lot line of the R1. And as long as it is considered an opaque screen, in which time they would submit a revised landscape plan and we would make sure it's opaque.
What is opaque? Can I have a definition of it?
We have different tree species listed in our code that are considered opaque. The code speaks about spacing. Code is specific to spacing, and this is what we can require. So as long as they provide an opaque species and meet the spacing requirements, that's as much as we can do.
So this plan has 4. He was going to plant 4, red buds. I don't know. I don't know what he's going to plant. But you're saying he has to do
He just
4
has to make sure it's opaque.
But
yes.
But it's only 4.
As far as I'm aware, yes, that's what I understand.
They don't go together. 4 trees aren't going to shield that. No way. 100 and some feet.
Mr. Long, whenever you speak, please come to the podium so we can get it in the record.
There's very little chance that 4 trees are going to shield 120-something feet.
So what happens if it doesn't?
And again,
we're only requiring 4?
Can I say one other thing?
Uh-huh.
She's standing on statute that says it requires a certain amount of trees. Then let me stand on statute that says if I abut commercial, I don't have to do it.
I can see it both ways, and I don't mean that mean to either. I'm just saying that you're showing me a picture that says 4 trees, and I understand you not wanting to pay more, and you're saying 4 trees isn't gonna make it where it blocks it. But are
will
you
not.
saying if I approve that plan right there, that he only has to buy 4 trees?
For landscaping code, I can only enforce however many trees are required based on this length of this property boundary and based on the spacing requirements. But it has to be an opaque species so that when they grow up.
So even though you know it's not gonna fill that space, are you not okay with 4 trees only? I'm curious as an owner.
If she will stipulate that I only have to plant 4, I'll agree to it. But that's the only way I'll agree to it.
That's what I'm asking, is that what we're saying? Is when we approve this, we only have to plant 4?
But that's not what, I'm sorry. I
There's
don't
only
wanna-
4. Am I miscounting? 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, but they're a different type of tree.
Well, and he's saying he'll plant 4,
But it's not going to be opaque.
but it won't fill
But
the
that's what's
space.
required, it will fulfill the requirement.
If it's an opaque species on the landscape plan and we have a revised landscape plan showing a species that our code confirms is opaque, it will meet the code requirement. As long as it meets the requirement of trees along the property boundary, however many trees they have, which this plan does meet that requirement, and they meet the spacing requirements as set forth in the landscaping code, then yes, it just has to be the species. The species is what it's coming down to at this point.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm curious, was Ron gonna say something on that point, or do you understand? I'm not an engineer and I'm not a planner, so I'm trying to understand.
And I'm not a landscape architect, so I can't answer the question. I know 4 of the Leland cypresses are not gonna screen that probably.
But it doesn't
over
matter if
20
they
years.
only tell you have to have 4, then you only have to have 4.
She's saying that he's gonna have to, I have to get with my landscape architect, have him revise that to put however many Leland cypress trees in that 130 feet that it takes to provide an opaque screen according to the code.
Okay.
It
And
then
it's
has to
gonna-
go back and be approved by planning, by planning
Yes.
department.
Which will be many, in my understanding, will be many more than just 4 trees. Because I think they only get like 10 or 12, 15 feet in diameter full maturity. They grow really fast, they grow really tall, but they're not that wide. So, and, again, his point, if we're gonna go by code, then shouldn't have to do them in the first place.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Carol?
does this mean it has to be opaque at the time they are planted, not at maturity?
Megan?
So I believe at the time that they're planted, they need to be opaque.
What I'm presuming.
But I know that for previous projects, we added language to the condition to make sure that they were a certain height and maturity whenever they went in, just to be sure that they were opaque at that time.
And do
So-
we have a list of the specific trees that are considered opaque?
We do, in our code section, we have a list of trees that are appropriate for opaque screening, and other things.
And this is in lieu of a fence?
Yes, they cannot place a fence there because there is a drainage structure that sits there, so this is in lieu of a fence.
Madam Mayor.
Madam,
Yes, David?
Looking at the overhead drone map of this, they're absolutely correct. The houses that are down Kenwood have trees all the way around them. They're all grown. I can tell you, just listening to this tonight brings back so many comments I have heard from developers for 20 years that we just keep adding codes and we keep making changes, and then it's not enough, so we make changes to the code to make it more difficult. And it used to be that Fayetteville was the hardest city to deal with on their codes for development. And now I hear that Siloam is. And if we get to the point that we are just following codes or adding new codes or making things like this just because we can, it doesn't help the growth of the city with development wanting to come to Siloam Springs. And that's what we have to concentrate on, folks, is we want development here, commercial, residential, industrial, sure, but you know, if staff who was involved in the stretching of this lot or whatever, it's really an odd thing to have two different zones in such a weird shape. But it's just, to me, it's such a strange thing to see that and us be requiring because of code that because the only chance that that could ever be is residential, then we have to make them put up a screen. It is by code not touching residential. It is by code touching commercial. So by code, he shouldn't be having to put the trees. And just the fact that this sliver is unable to be built on, I honestly don't see, even if there was a house built on this lot, that it's going to be the same size as the other houses down Kenwood. On top of that, if you're going to plant trees in the drainage, how do you know the drainage and all the water isn't going to kill the trees? That's an awful lot of water in a drainage ditch. So I just hate to see the bickering, the back and forth, the arguing, the all because of codes. And we just, every year we change codes, we add codes, we put more codes. And I hate to hear developers say that we are the hardest to deal with on municipal codes in all of Northwest Arkansas. It shouldn't be that way.
So David, could I ask you this? Would you like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 40-23 with the item, the condition number 4 for the trees be removed?
I will make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. Betsy, do you have a comment?
I do.
Okay.
That strip that the trees go on, did I hear correctly? It's 100 feet?
Megan?
20.
Pardon me?
120.
Okay.
Mr.
So,
Long?
120.
What was your question, Betsy?
how long that strip is? And cypress grow to be, these Leland cypress grow to be 15 to 25 feet wide, so that would be 7 trees?
Megan?
10 to 15 feet wide.
Mr. Long, if I could let Megan go ahead and answer these questions, please.
I believe it's 1 tree for every 40 feet.
1 tree for every 40 feet?
I think off the top of my head, it's either 30 or 40 feet, but I don't have the code section completely memorized.
Okay, if it has to be 15 feet wide, that would be, or if the trees grow to be 15 feet wide, that's 7 trees.
Did you say 120 feet?
It looks like 6, actually. That drawing looks like 6 trees.
Right, and I was just, if it's 8 trees if they grow 15 feet wide. So, I mean, just so we get more specific what we're talking about and what would be allowed and accepted, so.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I want to stress also, if you review what is being built here, we're providing 21 new jobs in retail and banking. And I think that's also important to look at. We have 21 new jobs coming once this development is finished. That is important. We need to be constantly looking at new jobs in Siloam, and this is an advancement for us. We need to be helping and bending over backwards to make sure that it's not a problem.
Okay, so
Madam Mayor?
we have a motion and a second on the floor. Reed, you have a comment?
Megan, right now we're seeing 3 trees there. And in order to make them opaque, the Leland cypress, how many trees will he need to plant?
We can measure it based off of how much square foot is there and then do that.
So it will be more than 3.
If the square footage for that length calls for more than 3.
Okay, thank you.
I believe these
And speak
trees,
into the
I
mic.
know that these trees are
Megan.
not,
Please speak into the mic. We can't hear you.
I know that these trees are not circled here on this little plan, but if you see, there's also 2 trees right here. So there's several trees in there that they can work around with and change the species on and relocate and adjust to make opaque.
So it is possible that he would plant the same amount of trees he already has then.
Depending on what that calculation is, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over here. If we're trying to figure out where the line goes, could have, but I don't have that calculation on the top of my head.
You could see on the north and southeast side, they're already doing a tremendous amount of landscape work. It looks like it's going to be very nice. I'm impressed.
Mindy?
Madam Mayor, I think it is important to realize, Megan, I know you are enforcing the code. You and the planning department, you're enforcing the code. You didn't create the code. I understand that. I understand you to say that you're going to plant trees no matter what. You would appreciate not having to plant the more expensive trees. Is that what I understand you to say? If the board decides we want to make an exception to this ordinance, you're saying you will plant trees regardless.
I'm going to plant trees. My issue is the fact that I'm being required to make it opaque. And she said just a minute ago, a tree every 40 feet. That's 3 trees in 120 feet. There's no way that becomes opaque. And as a second point, I presently have the adjacent land under contract, all 8 of that acres.
Okay.
I can assure you I'm building no house on that little corner.
And that was another question of mine. Have we talked to the person that owns the property to the west?
It's Harold Cry, and he is not building a house on it.
And
I
has
haven't.
he asked for any kind, to assure that there's any kind of opaque structure there? No? Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
you can say.
Now,
You can
I
go
was
first.
just going to say, we've kind of lost control here, okay? Actually, we have a motion and a second that we need to act on, okay?
Okay.
So,
Well, Madam Mayor, I will withdraw the motion if we still have discussion.
okay, do I have a withdrawal of the second?
Withdraw the second.
Okay, so we are going back to Lisa. You have a question?
Well, it's more of a statement. I think I appreciate staff because they are following the rules. But this is why we've had discussions in the past. We need to look at our code and we need to figure out what works for our community and what doesn't. And we'd planned on having a meeting, and I think I can't wait till we get that scheduled because this is where you and Ron and other people in our community need to step up and say, hey, I seen this in the code and we need to discuss it because we're asking to make these exceptions to the rules. And I agree with this exception, and I appreciate staff doing exactly what we told them to do, and we told them to follow the rules. And so.
So Christina, do we have an idea when that date might be for that?
To talk
hall
about the whole
meeting, if you
process
will?
of building.
I don't have a date yet. I do know that I am meeting with staff to discuss that, though.
Okay, all right. So we do know that that is a discussion and that is upcoming. Okay,
Correct.
all right. So knowing that, do I have a motion at this point to approve Resolution 40-23 as presented? Do I have a motion and a second for that? Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 40-23 with requirement number 4 for opaque trees removed?
So moved.
Second. Or
And that's requirement number 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, number 2. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call
To remove number 2.
to remove number 2 for the opaque trees.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
No.
Hunt.
Yes.
Whistler.
yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Motion is approved with condition number 2 removed and all other conditions in place.
Thank you,
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Thank you, directors.
Next are our staff reports. First is our annual Planning Commission report, and Christina.
So the annual Planning Commission report was included in the agenda packet. Ben will usually give you a little bit more detail, but he was unable to make the meeting tonight. If you have any questions, you're welcome to present those to Ben or to myself.
Thank you. Then we have the discussion for an assistant city administrator position, and I believe Director Hunt asked that to be added to this agenda. So, Mindy?
I did ask for this, and it came after we were informed that our community development director has resigned. And at the time, we still had the city administrator position open. I felt like this might, and this is a discussion that has actually been, not a discussion that's been going on because we haven't discussed it, but I know our previous city administrator had talked about at some point possibly putting an assistant city manager in place. And in fact, as our board packet indicated, there was a position description even created at one point by the firm that did our salary study. So I just wanted to bring it up so the board could discuss whether it might be a good time to look at having a city administrator. I understand that our community development director was over 9 departments. That's a lot of departments. So this may be a good time to just kind of revamp, relook at. I think we would have to look at the job description, possibly make some changes to that. Anyway, that's why I brought it up and when I brought it, or why and what the timing was for.
Okay. So, Christina, if I'm not mistaken, the Johansson Group did provide a job description for an assistant city administrator that they would kind of have to go by if they decided they wanted to look at doing that. Is that correct?
So Johansson did the salary evaluation on the job description that was provided to Johansson.
Okay.
So the actual job description was prepared by staff.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
So, directors, discussion.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So we have not as directors approved that position. So that's one decision we have to make. Are we saying, if we agree, yeah, I think that's something we should look into? And then there's the discussion, should it be the replacement of that position or an addition to staff? And then that goes back to finance, which goes back to Christine, that can tell us, I mean, is that even doable? What time frame? Because there's a lot of variables that will play into.
So, yes. The real question is are you looking to potentially add the position currently in the current year, in the next year's budget? If you were to do it in the current year, obviously you wouldn't spend more than half of whatever's in the range for the remainder of the year. And whether or not you're looking to add to this or replace the other position, and then whatever we're going to do with the Parks Department will all play a role in how it impacts the budget, if at all.
So I came from an environment where we kind of combine services if we could. And I can see us combine, and we've had to, with the email that says, hey, here's all the divisions that reported. And this is just my opinion for discussion only. I could see putting if we did an assistant city administrator, I could see combining Parks and Rec and Library as an external service because we have our public works, we have our, and usually internal services, which is Christina, which is the accounting, and IT and HR. Those are your internal services. And so have an external service department, which would include the library and the Parks and Rec, and then still have that position for the city administrator position. That's just my recommendation.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I appreciate Director Hunt asking for us to review this. We've gotten the information, and I believe that we should hold off putting this as a new position until our city administrator has input on this and gives the board a report on it. Because the administrator will be who is directing this job. I think we need to get some input on that. I think it's definitely warranted for succession planning, but also just what we've learned with overwhelming department heads, we can put some of the responsibility on the assistant or vice or deputy or whatever you're going to call it. But I don't think it's wise to make a decision to do it tonight. I think we should have the new city administrator be involved in it.
Thank you.
And that's part of why we need to discuss it. This was something that was discussed before we decided who to make an offer to, and I am perfectly fine with holding off on this, and think that the city administrator should be involved in this discussion.
Oh, yes, Carol.
I do believe in that we need an assistant, but I believe we should do that after we have put our city administrator in place and that he or she is part of that discussion.
Madam Mayor.
Yes,
and
Betsy.
It is a great idea, but because of the other person leaving, and it sounds like there needs to be some reorganization also, and I do think the city administrator and the board that we should work together on all of it to figure it out. So I agree, we should wait.
And just to be clear, my understanding of this being on the agenda was specifically for discussion, not to make any kind of decision tonight.
Yes, strictly for discussion, just to get feedback from the board.
Right.
Kind of the
I
direction.
understand that as well.
Yes. Reed?
I think the concept is a good one, and I am also in agreement that we hold off just a little bit for this and use wisdom on that.
Thank you. Ken?
I'm in agreement. I think we need to get the new administrator in place and all sit down and talk about needs, wants, and come together on what we're looking for. So, yes.
So I think, Christina, you have the direction that it's something that they are going to hold off on for right now until the new administrator is in place, and then start looking at numbers. And
we've never had assistant administrator, and so it is a big step for the board to make that determination.
But we got to plan for succession, and this process has identified we got to plan for succession. It's vital that we do.
All right, so I think that we are all in agreement with that situation and how we want to handle that. So next on the agenda then is our May financials and the administrator's report. Christina.
So financial statements for May are included in the agenda packet, and please let me know if you have any questions related to those financial statements. Regarding expenditures in excess of $30,000, $36,900 per year is for an EMS billing service. $42,840 is for process chemicals in the third quarter for the water treatment plant. $31,398.29 for Smith two-way radios through the Act 833 grant. Purchases per resolution 61-21, $95,084 for 50 kVA, 240, 120, 1 pH pad mount transformers for electric, $90,516 for kVA of 25 pad mount transformers, and $91,897.50 for 750 ERD EPR primary wire for electric. There was an administrative correction of a clerical error in landscape for Jiffy Trip number 2. This involved relocating 3 trees previously shown on Lot 3 in the southeast portion of the landscape buffer to within Lot 2, and the change does not substantially modify the use, character, or density of the approved plan. Last week, in partnership with JBU, we were able to provide a series of videos to community highlighting cybersecurity and fraud prevention. Parks and Rec is hosting an art camp for ages 5 to 17 beginning the week of July 24th. Campers can register through the city's website. And a ribbon cutting ceremony will take place on Friday, July 7th at 9:30 a.m. for the Woka Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. And I encourage all of our citizens that can to be there for that ribbon cutting for the Woka Trail. This has been a great project. It's been a collaborative effort by the city, the chamber, the Walton Family Foundation, GRDA. It's been a really great effort put forth, and it's an amazing trail. It really is. So I hope that everyone that can will be there. I also want to say I hope everyone had a happy 4th, safe 4th. I appreciate that our citizens, for the most part, at least in my neighborhood, after about 10:15, I did not hear any more fireworks. So I know apparently in other areas that was not so. But anyway, I appreciate that. And our fire chief gave us a breakdown for their calls, and they only had they had a grass fire and 2 dumpster fires. So I mean, I think that's great. We're doing a good job, and we appreciate everyone that is working together as a community to keep us safe and still enjoy our holidays. So with that, I'm going to move to the director's comments, and then I believe at the end, Lisa, you have a motion you'd like to make. So we're going to start with Reed and come back around, and you will end.
Okay.
And, okay, so Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Had a wonderful 4th of July, very restful. And I felt like the city of Siloam Springs celebrated well. Looking forward to summer. Looking forward to what is happening in our community. We have so many things that are good and awesome. I know, what was it, last Saturday we had some music, and I think there was over 1,000 people represented there in our community. And we had singers from very young age to older, and it was good to see our fire department out there, EMS workers helping out with some that needed some help, but everything was just done so smoothly. It was a really good setting, very appreciative of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol.
I want to thank the search selection committee for the applicants that we received and we've been reviewing for the city administrator job. They spent a lot of time and effort, and I really appreciate that because that makes our job just a little bit easier. Still a hard job, and I appreciate all the time and effort that they spent. I want to thank the let me see, what is their name? The Bryan Minnis group for the update on the golf course. I think it looks to me like they've been doing some improvements that are much needed and will improve that course as well. I hope everybody enjoyed the fireworks display. I'm not really a fan of fireworks, but I know that there are a lot of people out there. And I'm glad it's all over, and my dog is really glad that it's all over. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to say congratulations to all the new members of our fire department that were here tonight. I had a hard time counting. I think there were at least 10 of them. And it excites me to see our local Siloam natives be a part of it. I think there were 4 of them, and a few of them I know since they were little kids. It's amazing that they are joining, some of them doing what they've wanted to do their whole life now. It's also impressive, though, to see some from the big cities that have moved to Siloam, as well as from our armed forces that would join our fire department. I also want to congratulate and thank our new school resource officers for being here tonight to introduce themselves, and we appreciate that we are able to partner with the schools and give young kids their first just a chance to get to know law enforcement and appreciate them from a young age, and I think it's very important, and I'm glad that we have this program. Thank you, Bryan, for the update on the golf course. It was needed, and we appreciate it. There was a thing regarding our fireworks last night where it was over, and like 20 minutes later, 6 or 7 still went off. So yeah, and it was nice, but I don't know what happened. I would like to see next year that maybe we budget in this year that we put more money towards it and maybe bid it out. I don't think we've increased our expenditure on fireworks probably since we began 10 years ago or so. And the only reason I say it, I get so tired of people saying, well, Colcourts is better or Gentry's is better. And I'm like, well, then go watch them. But I would appreciate that we, think about our citizens and maybe spend a little bit more money. And just FYI for the people who want to know, that costs $12,000 every year. That's all that's spent on that. And there is a great deal of enjoyment by the citizens to watch that. But I would like to see us maybe beef it up for next year. I also want to express appreciation to the screening committee for giving us some amazing candidates. It was a very hard decision. It was something that affected me physically with keeping me up at night and my stomach. It was just something like, are we going to make the right decision? And I think we did. I think we selected a great choice, and I think he's going to do a great job. But Carla Wasson, Jonathan Barnett, David Jackson, and Randy Torres, and Lisa Rissler spent a lot of their personal time doing this. I mean, way more than any of them expected or that we expected of them. And they did it graciously, and it was a huge boon to the city and to the citizens and to us as board members. And we appreciate them deeply. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, David. Mindy?
Well, I'll echo a lot of that. The thank you to the screening committee. I appreciated all the time and effort they made into presenting some really good candidates to us. Welcome to the new firefighters and SROs. There were at least, the 4 local ones were actually in my kids' classes, and so I watched them grow up, literally. So that's kind of neat seeing them in this position now. And you mentioned the Gentry fireworks show. Instead of saying that it is better or, what I would like to encourage us to maybe consider coordinating with Gentry and having our fireworks display maybe a different night. And this actually came from a citizen who said, and she lives right in between. She said, we love going to the Gentry fireworks display every year, but I would love to go to the Siloam Springs fireworks display every year. And has there been ever any thought about having them on different days? And maybe we could do some sort of coordination. And maybe we could do a little bit more of an event with ours. That is one thing that Gentry does with bringing in vendors and food trucks. And we were riding our bikes that day. We rode our bikes by there. It's a pretty big event. So anyway, just a thought that maybe we consider giving the people in this area 2 great fireworks shows.
Thank you, Mindy. Ken?
Yeah, 3 things real quick that everybody else has already talked about. Or maybe 4. Fireworks were great. I had a wonderful time, and I think I know a lot of other people did. So, thank you to everyone who had a hand in that. Again, screening committee, thank you so much for the tireless hours that you put in. It was, I know it was difficult, but you did a great job. And I appreciate it, and I know everyone on the board appreciates it. I really enjoyed getting the report on the golf club, and the efforts on the course and where they're at, what they're planning on. I'd like to see that again soon, maybe next quarter wouldn't be good. And I really appreciated that. I was very glad to see that. And lastly, again, as was stated, it's always great to see new fire people coming on, new police patrolmen or whatever, SRO, whatever. It's nice to see people coming in, wanting to come in, but that our departments are well-staffed and well-represented, and thank you to everyone involved in that as well.
Thank you, sir. Betsy?
Actually, I like the idea of 2 nights, because my mind went to, if Siloam did their fireworks on the 3rd, then people wouldn't have to be worried about getting up for work the next day. So
I didn't worry about that.
I know, but you don't worry about anything. And thank you, like others have said, to the screening committee. They were amazing, and I know they worked hard and put so much effort into it, and they made it hard for us, which was good. So I went and visited maintenance in the last couple of weeks, and they take care of 442 vehicles. 3 mechanics take care of 442 vehicles for this city. That's impressive. They do an amazing job. Of course, I also, while I was there, it was pointed out that the walls, it's kind of like a giant metal outbuilding with no insulation, and you can see daylight through the walls in places. So they are getting a bid for insulation, so hopefully that won't be too long before that comes before the board. Because at one point last year, their gas bill was $10,000. So they need some work done on their building. They're working in the dead of winter when it's freezing cold, and as soon as they open a door to bring in a vehicle, any heat that was there is gone. So I think they do an amazing job, and we need to take care of them. I guess the equipment they use to check computers on the cars, all the different vehicles, has gone out, and they need a new one. And they found one that will address all the vehicles, so hopefully we'll see that soon, because right now they're having to send their vehicles to the dealership, and that means our vehicles are out of commission until the dealership. It might be a month before they can hook it up and figure out what's wrong through the computer system. So they're amazing. Wanted to give a shout out to them and support them and the things they need. Last thing a citizen mentioned, because the whole bypass thing is starting to be discussed in the federal mandate. It was suggested, and I guess they did this in Dallas, that we have 6 lanes on 412 now, because there's so much traffic. There would be less traffic with a bypass. So bring it down to 4 lanes and use the extra 2 and do like big cities have and make it go over the top. So there are companies that do that. So I'm just going to throw that out there too. And that is all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, before Lisa goes and adjourns, I had one thing regarding the change of the fireworks to the rodeo grounds. I did have some people complain that the tree lines around the rodeo grounds prevented some views. I know staff was looking at safety because of people crossing 59. That was the reason to change. A lot of people didn't know why, but it was well thought out that it is tough to, 59's pretty active highway, and so that was all for safety's sake. But there was some comment on that of the tree lines blocking. The last thing I did want to say, she's not done, but I want to thank Christina for all the work she's done. Being the interim city administrator, we owe her a huge debt. You've done a great job, Christina. I know it's one of those things where when you're not here, who knows what you're going to be assigned, and that's what you got. But we appreciate everything you've done. You've done a great job of balancing everything, and I think the employees have felt comfortable dealing with you, and we have felt comfortable. So, as I said, you're not finished, but I'm just wanting to say thank you for all the work you've done. So, thank you.
Thank you for that, David. Yeah, you have done a fantastic job, so. And you're right, you're not done. Lisa?
That was on my list. I think I approached Christina today and I said, I have really enjoyed working with you. I have really enjoyed getting to know you. And I can't thank you enough for all that you've done. I mean, there's a lot to it. And I don't think people understand, especially when you walk into work one day and you're like, guess what? You're the interim city administrator. And you're handed all this work, and you took it graciously, and I appreciate that. Thank you. I agree with Director Hunt. I think that we need to coordinate next year if we could, and I do like the idea of adding more to it, making it more of a community event. I like Director Allen's idea of going out for bid and maybe getting them higher. It was a great location. When you, those tall ones, you could see very well. And so if we maybe could get some bidding and get some of those done. Since David mentioned Concord's is next Saturday. So they did that because they were looking at Siloam and they looked at Gentry. And you know, all these smaller towns come to our community and they shop. And they are part of this community. And they bring in a lot of revenue to our area. So if you want to support them, the Concord one's next Saturday. No, I don't know what time. You'll have to look online. But I just wanted to offer that up. I want to thank the screening committee. There was a lot of hours and a lot of discussion. And we went through those resumes with a fine-tooth comb. And I appreciate all their thoughts, all their comments, and I did take everything they said to heart. I also appreciate the employees because they matter, and I appreciate that they provided feedback to the directors. That some of them called, some of them. I got a lot of calls. Or they would stop you when you're in the hallway or you're at one of their offices and stuff. And I really appreciate that we took into consideration the employees and we took into consideration the community with the screening committee. And then I want to thank the directors here that you trusted me enough to be on that screening committee, because it did make a difference. And it tells me we are united. And we get a lot of comments and stuff, but we really are united. We're united because we all care about our community, no matter what.
But
we
Lisa,
all care about our
those
community.
committee members complimented how much work you did, and they all said it was thanks to Lisa that we were able to know what the board or what the city staff were able. They didn't know the legality, so you were a huge boon. They all said you were a huge help. So.
And I thank you, and I appreciate you guys trusting me to do that position. I do want to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel contract for the city administrator position.
We have a motion to adjourn to executive session. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Whistler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. At this time, we will move to the upstairs administrative conference room for executive session. And we will reconvene whenever we come back and announce any decision that might be taken.